Hey everybody. So today I am going to go over the importance of exercise, specifically chronic exercise, in freeing you from your addictive food tendencies. So this is something that I personally have noticed, and that's why I dove into the research. And I realized that the more my fitness improves, and that means the faster I can run and the heavier weights that I can lift, the more satiety overall I feel. You would think that as you increase the intensity of your workouts, your overall caloric burn is going up, and so you're going to feel hungrier. And that's the general misconception, right? That, oh, exercise is going to make you feel hungrier. And so people literally are scared of exercising because of this very fact. And unfortunately, this comes because of data that looks at acute, just single bouts of exercise sessions and studying those. And that's very different than when you study somebody who's been exercising for a long period of time and built up their fitness over time. So there is a difference between acute versus chronic exercise and their effects on how much of a tendency you have to consume addictive foods, and also on your satiety levels and how easily you feel satiated. So acute exercise might increase appetite and might trigger food consumption. That is true. However, chronic exercise has been shown to have the exact opposite effect. And that's because chronic exercise changes your brain to increase dopamine activity even at rest. And so when you're exercising, the cool thing is that you're not only increasing dopamine, serotonin, beta endorphins, all of those great neurotransmitters, you're not only increasing them during your exercise bout, but you're also signaling the brain so that even when you're not exercising, you will generally have an increased level of all of these neurotransmitters. And the brain does that by increasing the receptors for them. And so then you don't need to release too much dopamine for it to have an effect, because you have so many receptors for it that even small amount activates those receptors, and your mood goes up, and your tendency for addictive behaviors or addictive food consumption drops dramatically. So the more dopamine activity you have that you've created internally means that you have less of a drive to seek dopamine externally in the form of a cupcake or a form of addictive behavior, whatever your addiction is. This study, it's a review published in 2020 that looked specifically at taste perceptions. I'm mainly interested in sugar addiction because it's the most addictive of all the different tastes. And it showed that sweet taste intensity, sensitivity, and preference were increased by acute physical exercise, which is what we which we know already, right? And it's expected. But sweet preference was reduced by chronic physical activity. There you go. And that's definitely something that I've experienced, and I wanted to share that with you. Chronic exercise also improves your body composition, and as well improves your leptin and insulin sensitivity. And that's exactly what you want to happen, so that you don't feel as hungry all the time or as addicted to carbohydrates all the time. Another review, also published in the year 2020, looked at how physical activity affected addictive food behavior. And it showed that low levels of physical activity are associated with higher liking and wanting for high energy food. And habitual, moderate to vigorous physical activity is associated with lower liking in wanting for high-fat food and higher liking for low-fat food. In other words, if you're constantly working out and you're a chronic exerciser, so that means your fitness level is elevated, you are far less likely to seek out energy-dense foods, and far more likely to actually like foods that aren't as energy-dense. And the summary here is that exercise training appears to be accompanied by positive changes in food preferences in line with an overall improvement in appetite control. That's another major thing, is that your appetite doesn't blow up with the exercise the way that we've been told, right? It does happen on a short-term basis, if you just started working out, and especially if your workouts aren't progressively overloading your muscles. So if you're just walking every day, but never pushing yourself to go from walking to jogging to running, then yes, you're going to have an increased appetite after those walking bouts. But if you're progressively overloading your muscles and over time improving your fitness to become stronger, then what we actually see is that satiety drops back down. So this is so cool. I experienced it firsthand, and that led me to seek out the studies to see what has been published on this topic, and I wanted to share that with you. So I hope you enjoyed it. This is my Instagram if you want to connect, and these are the references, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.